This is To Help You Heal, and I'm your host, Marie Monville. We are going to spend 10 minutes talking about healing. What kind of healing do you need? Is it in your mindset? Is it emotional healing? Is it spiritual healing? There's a lot of healing that we all need, and this is where you're going to find it every week, 10 minutes on Tuesday. I'm so glad you're spending this time with me. Welcome to this week's episode of To Help You Heal. This week, I want to talk about something that kind of goes along with what we've been discussing over the past weeks, but really I think is applicable for any of us at any point of our life. Have you ever found yourself in a season of going after something different? Maybe it's a different routine. Maybe you're prioritizing exercise, or maybe you are really working on seeing life for possibility and living in a place of hope, and that's different for you. Or maybe you are working to keep some boundaries that you've wanted to set for yourself but have struggled with. Maybe you're just letting things go. Maybe you're speaking up. We have these opportunities to dig into something that we've really wanted to do, and we do that. But have you ever then come into this place where it just doesn't feel like it's working for you? Maybe you feel tired or you just feel off. I think a lot of times when we're going after something new, when we're committing to something that we've wanted to do for ourselves or in an aspect of changing some part of our life, we do this thing and we kind of expect it to feel good. It's like expecting sunny days in May. Here in Pennsylvania, I feel like we are stuck in gray, rainy, dreary days. I mean, I don't even wanna look at the 10-day forecast anymore because it just keeps letting me down. I love the sunshine, and I think it makes this parallel to points in my life where I've been working on going after something, and I want to think that in those spaces when I'm embracing the consistency of it, that it's going to feel good, that it's gonna feel like sunny days in spring, the birds are singing and the world's just perfect. And sometimes it's not like that. Sometimes it feels difficult. It feels off. Something feels out of sync. It's a struggle. And I think sometimes we get set back by that because we weren't expecting it. So let's talk about that this week. Let's talk about what happens when we start living differently and something does feel off. Because sometimes it makes us feel disappointed that we thought it wasn't supposed to feel this way. And I want you to know that this is normal because the truth is that sometimes growth is uncomfortable. And I think when we find ourselves in these moments, it's generally because it's that struggle of growth. I don't think about what it takes for a plant to grow very often until I'm in these moments where I'm thinking about my own growth and I'm thinking about how hard it is because we just see flowers bloom. This is a time of year where we can see things blooming and it looks incredible and it's captivating and it smells just wonderful. But that growth takes effort. And I get that plants don't necessarily feel things, but it has to be difficult as they're pushing their way up through the dirt or as the blooms are opening. They have to grow and go against something that was normal that now isn't normal for them anymore. And it's the same for us. In these seasons of growth, we're going to have to push through and we are going to have to lean into something that doesn't necessarily feel comfortable. And I'm not saying that from the standpoint of, oh, just push through it or, oh, just work harder. But I want you to think about your own growth in this place of saying, yeah, the discomfort is normal. That is a typical part of the growth process because I don't think we talk about that enough. We talk about the growth that happens and the, amazing transformations that we make or the new seasons that we come into, but we don't talk about how hard it is all along the way, that the midway point can feel like such a struggle. And sometimes I think it's because it's as if we're living according to this new operating system that we haven't quite mastered yet. Things have changed and we're coming along with that change, but we're not quite on track with it. I remember when I switched from using a PC to a Mac, it was a little bit difficult. There were things that I was figuring out and things that still felt awkward and shortcuts I would try to do on my Mac that wouldn't work because that was a PC. Anytime that we're learning something new, we are going to have those moments where it feels awkward. And so maybe you're finding that you're no longer a people pleaser and you feel awkward when you're not just agreeing or going along with things, you're standing up for yourself. Maybe you're feeling some guilt about boundaries, even though they're healthy, just because this is a new way of doing things for you. Or maybe you're feeling uncertain in your purpose because you're now living in this place of purpose that's not attached to proving anything or hustling harder. And I want to give you permission to be okay with those feelings because it's as if your nervous system, your brain, the way you process is recalibrating. Your system is coming into a new level of neutral, of alignment, of peace. And it can feel really foreign at first, but this is where you belong. So allow yourself to embrace the discomfort of it. Remind yourself that growth sometimes is uncomfortable and you just have to hang in there for a little bit longer. And, honestly, that discomfort, that's proof that you are growing. Sometimes I think we can also look at these seasons and it feels difficult because we're not necessarily in that moment where we're seeing the evidence of change in some kind of glorious and captivating way. We're not there yet, but this is the evidence of change. We're not doing it wrong. And, the old life wasn't even bad. That thing that we've left behind or that we're working on shifting, it's not that that was bad. We don't need to see it that way either, because that's the thing that brought us here. It's what we knew before, and we don't fit there now. But as much as that is true, we also don't have to rush to create this new identity. We can simply embrace the process. We can allow ourselves to find the way through this new season, these places of growth, these reminders that growth sometimes is uncomfortable. So I want you to ask yourself this question. Where are you feeling the most friction right now? What's the place that you're struggling with? Because you're, embracing this new season and maybe being really intentional about the changes that you've made or the mindset shifts that you've had, but it doesn't feel smooth yet. Where's the friction? And what does that friction say about how you've changed? If you're having trouble thinking about this as it applies to yourself, think about it if a friend were telling you that story. If your friend was saying to you, "Hey, I've made these changes in my life, but I'm feeling a bit of friction around it and I thought that it would feel smooth and easy and predictable right now and it doesn't feel that way." What would you say to your friend? Because I think it's a lot easier to give great advice or to be encouraging or kind to a friend. Sometimes it's more difficult to do that for ourselves. I think we would encourage them to notice the discomfort not as a sign of failure, but an invitation to continue to embrace the process, to trust that it's taking us where we want to go, to realize that we're not always going to see the evidence of the change in the way that we want, but it doesn't mean that it isn't happening. So what are you working on right now? What's the place in your life that maybe feels a little bit uncomfortable? I want to encourage you not to lean away from it, but lean into the discomfort and to think about what that discomfort is telling you. Maybe to look at it from the standpoint of what's the progress that you've made? Because sometimes we miss that too. We're not thinking about discomfort and growth as evidence of growth. We're just thinking about the way that we don't like to feel, but sometimes we also have to look back and remind ourselves of the changes that we've made and how far we've come. So, what does the friction tell you? What does the discomfort signify? And how can you then encourage yourself to keep moving forward? And I am a big believer in rest. And so if you're finding that this season of growth is really making you tired, it's okay to take some space to rest, not to give up. It's not being lazy. It's just saying I need a moment to catch my breath and then I'm going to continue moving forward. So as you listen to these places of discomfort and you think about the changes that has happened and you're thinking about what you need right now, I want you to give yourself permission to have that. Ask God what that is. Ask a friend. You can have this conversation with someone else if it's a struggle for you, but you feel like it resonates. Talk about it with them. Sometimes talking brings the breakthrough. Sometimes we find that we know the answer as we're talking about something that we thought we were unsure of. So I hope that this has been an encouragement to you today. In these episodes of To Help You Heal, I really want to help you find healing. And I try to think about them from the standpoint of what do I wish I would have known when I was going through these parts of the process? What could somebody have told me that would have helped? And I think in so many places, had I known that that discomfort was just evidence of the growth and that I should keep moving forward, my journey might have looked a little bit different. But I'm glad that I can look back on it now and share this with you in the hopes that it helps your journey. If you want to chat about your journey, if you want to share where you're at, if you want a little perspective, I'd love to connect with you. You can send me an email, marie@mariemonville.com, or find me on social media. Let me know what you're working on. If you also have some ideas of future episode topics, I'd love to hear that too. So take these places of growth, remind yourself of all that you have overcome and all that you're moving towards, and celebrate that. Encourage yourself, and I think that's going to help you move forward with purpose. I can't wait to continue this conversation with you next week as we continue to go after these places of healing in our lives. Come on back next week and join me in the conversation.